other consumer product companies. Started my first company with my wife 23 years ago. And in those last 23 years, the companies we've worked with generated $1 billion in consumer product revenue. We have direct-to-consumer revenue of the businesses we've owned and sold over $100 million, over $25 million in ad spend. We've done a lot in the space. We've had 3 different exits across different consumer product companies. So, we're excited about the space. We're in a spot now where we just love to engage with growing companies and find a way to help people do what they do better. So that's why I'm here, and that's what I hope that we can find some ways to learn together and share some information, answer questions. We can have this certainly very conversational. So Omnichannel, that's why you came today. Really, Omnichannel, the key thing, we talked about this, how do you 10x your sales, right? And 10x your sales, it's really a multiplier effect, right? So what Omnichannel does is it helps you be more efficient in talking to your customers because you have a unified voice. You can increase your average order value, you can increase the frequency of purchase, and you can decrease your cost of advertising. So when you add all those up together, huge, huge impact. This is omni-channel versus multi-channel. So a lot of people are like, man, I'm doing so much in my business today, I can't imagine doing one more thing. And really the biggest difference is it's about a cohesive approach with the customer in the center. It's not necessarily more things. It's about being more intentional and more customer-centric on everything you do. So obviously, I think the other thing that I like to talk about in some of the stores I work with, there's no scenario where your business is not already multi-channel. If you run a single retail store, wherever you are, you're at least having to manage your Google reviews, right? So you're already online, even if you don't spend ad money there, if you're not super active in social media. There's no scenario where a business today can be successful as a single point, only multi-channel retailer. Might as well take advantage of being omni-channel, because the difference really is about understanding your customer. So when we talk about understanding your customer, it's across all these different modalities, right? So online, kind of straightforward. Mobile, we know right now 42% of e-commerce is on mobile. In a lot of D2C businesses like the one we exited in January, 75% of our traffic was on mobile. Like, we know the customers go in there, look at our own user behavior. The difference is for higher AOV products, average order value products, expensive stuff, people tend to go back to more their desktop and they think about it, they share it. So we're going to continue to see that mobile percentage increase. Social. So 2 hours and 15 minutes per day is the average American and what they spend on social media every single day. Wow, crazy, right? So our products are going to pop up on social. And now, quick show of hands, how many people are here as a retailer versus a branded manufacturer? So retailers and branded companies, manufacturers? Okay, so good mix of both. So we can I'll try to tailor the conversation a little bit to address both needs, both issues that come up for both sides. So social media, particularly for brands, your brand's going to come out in social media at some point. The question is, are you part of the conversation, or is it just sort of happening and sometimes you find out about it? And then physical. Obviously for the retail stores, there's tons of other things you can do on physical connections, mailers, kiosks, billboards. What my company is doing now, and we set up an advisory firm because we're so passionate about the space, 2 of the elements of omni-channel that are almost never talked about are the brand and the product. And the brand is the customer-facing identity in the marketplace. And the product is your single most frequent touch point for your customers. So not considering them, not considering the impact of your product in that use case, that customer-centric, it's missing a big part of the opportunity to create a really valuable relationship with your customer. So everything I'm trying to talk about is really customer-centric. So part of it is really getting deep on who your ideal customer is. So when you think about an ideal customer, and this thread really goes through most of the conversation from today, get specific. So there's a separation between what's your demographic, which is kind of your big picture, your audience. But then when you get down to specific ideal customer, how does that compare to your current customer? So are your current customers your ideal customers, or is there a gap there? A lot of times, sometimes your current customer is just a reflection of who you're able to reach, but maybe not your ideal customer. Maybe they could be higher income demographic, or they could be a different age range. So compare your current customers to your ideal customer. What creates your ideal customer should be, can you identify what their habits are? Can you identify what their goals are, what they're purchasing, what they're looking to spend money to achieve? So as you're part of their purchasing conversation, are their goals aligned? The product value perception, you're presenting something they're looking for. How does it play against their fears? Does it align well with their other buying decisions? Are you solving a need for them? So a lot of times, the products that we offer today in bedding and furniture, we're trying to solve a specific need. Now, when I talk about the Jones family here, imagine this is a family, they just moved in a new house. Of the demographics that they're looking for, they're trying to fill space, right? They have a timeliness, they need to go buy stuff to fill their new home, make sure the bedrooms are properly filled and the new dining room sets. This is what they're motivated to go do. When we think of, well, shouldn't my agency be helping me just do this stuff for me? I'm busy spending a bunch of money. Maybe I have an email marketing company that helps me. I have a social media company. The challenge is, generally, there's not a really good through line between the different aspects of omnichannel. You can't count on the agency to know your customer. That you have to know how to present what you want from the agency to deliver for you. Like, how do they be a good partner? They're a good partner because they can help deliver what your needs are. So part of establishing what your expectations are is understanding what your customer's looking for from your brand, understanding how your product needs to deliver for that customer, and how that marketing carries that through the whole message. I was doing some work recently with Overstock, and Overstock has what they put their customers in 2 buckets. And their buckets they call, one is a savvy shopper, like they're just there for the deals. And the other one is a reluctant refresher. So they came up with their names, they have personas, they put quotes on the walls all around their corporate campus to remind their team, I don't know how many people they have, I would say 500 employees, when they're walking around their building, they're being reminded of the savvy shopper and the reluctant refresher, because that is what drives their entire business. So one of the things I challenge you guys, if you're not super focused right now on what that ideal customer is, put a name on it, right? So I'll pick the Jones family, pick a name for your ideal customers, and 2 up to 3, maybe up to 5, but no more than 5. And that should reflect like a very specific person that you're driving to go connect with online, connect with offline. But then every time you go to send an email, is this reflecting what the Jones family needs to see from me? Because if it's not, you're sending a very generic vanilla message. You're going to get back from the marketplace the same amount of energy as you put back in, as you're putting out there. So when you're specific, you're able to connect on that emotional level. So when we talk about emotional level, the journey the customer goes on. So has anyone familiar with journey mapping? Has anyone ever done a journey mapping exercise? So a couple of people. And what that is just kind of capturing from the first touch point with a brand all the way through purchase and then post-purchase. What is the experience? When you walk through kind of what your customer's experience is with your company, that can bring all kinds of interesting things to light. In brick and mortar retail stores, your first touch point is them probably driving by your store, seeing a billboard, seeing a physical engagement. They have an experience with your brand is probably the first touch point. Online, it may happen by accident. You may have a touch with them and you never even know it. They saw a post from a friend or from a colleague, something on social very likely. That may be their first touch point, and that's part of the journey of their start of their journey. So when when we look at the full journey map, and we talk about awareness being like the first touch point, and then it goes to engagement. Good, they know about you. How do you get them in the door? What's that first interaction? Is it a sign guy out there flipping signs to try to get them, create some energy out there? Is it, what are the other levels of engagement? On e-commerce, we learned that our customers, we can engage with our customers in 3 ways. There's 3 types of customers. There's customers that like to watch, so you got to send video content to them. There's customers that want to read, so you're going to send blog content, they want to learn some stuff. And then there's customers that want to do. Maybe they want to do a survey, they want to do a checklist, they want to give you some information, they want to engage in your information you're giving them in a different way. So it's the same customer profile, but the level and the type of engagement is just very different. Thinking through of how to set up your communication with them, knowing the types of engagement you're likely to get, is a way to get more engagement with those ideal customers. So conversion, obviously that's what we all love, right? That's what pays the bills, it keeps the lights on. Is making sure that when we finally get them in the door, they're engaged, they like what we have to offer, that we're able to sell them, and sell them in a way that satisfies their needs, right? So we're giving them something, the value exchanges. You're giving me money, I'm giving you return on that money with an experience, that great product, that great night's sleep, whatever it may be. Retention advocacy, I think, are 2 of the really big opportunities that are really hard to get right, but man, when we do, the return on that time is incredible. So how do you get them back in your store? Well, email marketing is certainly one of those things that's often underlooked. I was talking to a friend of mine that runs some retail stores in our area in North Carolina. He sends an email like once a month or so. I'm like, oh, dude, it's free. Email is free. If you're not sending email once a week, like if you're spending money on paid media, but you're not emailing your list once a week, you're leaving, that's just money on the table, right? Why would you go pay and engage with your customer when you could give them information that's free to give them, that they want to open? It increases the value. So this goes right with a journey map, right? So the journey map is sort of what their path is and points of connection. The empathy map is how do they engage with you on an emotional level? Because when you make that emotional connection with the brand, then it gets so much deeper. The example I love, the Jones family, back to our ideal customers, the Jones family, they love Chick-fil-A. Now Chick-fil-A is not the cheapest, but Mrs. Jones, when she's taking the kids, picking them up from their soccer practice to bring them home, she loves the fact that Chick-fil-A cares about how fast the drive-thru line is. Even though Chick-fil-A has MSG in their food that no one knows about, she loves the fact that the quality feels good. It's always hot, it always tastes good, it delivers on what she's looking for. So they're connecting, they're creating that feel, that energy of that silly cow billboard really resonates. So you get really good feel. When she's talking about what fundraisers they want to do to raise money for the soccer club, they're going to be talking about, hey, why don't we bring Chick-fil-A and sell it on the sidelines, because that's people just like me that I want to sell it to. You're getting the connection on the emotion, and you're getting the connection in a pattern which really resonates. So branding. So branding is the first touch point that your customer has with your brand. So either they're using the product, they see it in the space, but generally what they're going to remember is your brand. And what brands do you guys feel loyal to? Is there like a favorite brand you look to, like, man, that's my brand, whether it be a Yeti or Coca-Cola or Chick-fil-A, or any brands that people here look to, like that's kind of my North Star? Angela?
Allbirds.
Huh?
Allbirds.
Allbirds. Yeah, it's a great example. So is everyone here familiar with Allbirds? So I happen to have a friend of mine who's a Silicon Valley investor, and the founder of Allbirds came to him with a napkin sketch. And his vision was, look, I love footwear, but number one, footwear is terrible for the environment. It's not very comfortable. There's no all natural footwear made. So they literally went there and they made an all wool upper, and they went and created this business. And this business was all surrounded, it was like the fundamentals were simple, comfortable, and as all natural as they could be. And if you go to their stores are beautiful, they're like wood-lined walls and all natural feel. They created $1 billion business by identifying there was a need for an all-natural footwear company, or environmentally friendly footwear company, that really resonated with that audience. Simple, functional fashion. That brand, because they understood their customers so well, their stores nailed it, their branding nailed it, their product nailed it. So, but that brand was a constant through line of how they resonated. The Allbirds being kind of a flighty, fun energy thing. So, and NPS, these are some of the things like you can find online, like, hey, what's your NPS, your Net Promoter Score? When people talk about your business, are they talking about it in a positive light? What's the first thing they're gonna share? So, and as a business owner, the scariest thing you think of is like, they walked in my store, they reached out to customer service and they didn't get an answer. Dang. Or the salesperson was grumpy that day. And so they walked in and they had kind of a crappy experience. Ouch, that hurts. But not listening doesn't change the fact. It just means now we know what to work on. So listening is an essential element. Listening to what your customers are, soliciting that feedback is the only way we can improve. One of my favorite quotes in business is from Peter Drucker, and it's, you can't change what you can't measure. You can't improve what you can't measure. So this whole idea, and depending on where your business is and its kind of development, I really love the book Traction. And it was Gino Wickman. It's like entrepreneurial operating system. Anyone that's been an EO may have got experience from it there. I see a little head nod. You know, and the challenge in this book, the whole focus is, you can measure virtually everything in your business if you really challenge yourself to do it. Challenge yourself to measure the impact of the interaction with your brand, and then you'll find some opportunities on how you can improve it. Back to that measurement. What do you do right now to measure for anyone that's online, feels a little bit easier, but measuring customer interactions? So how do you know if it's been a good week? Is it door swings? Is it just retail sales? Is it the number, total volume of sales, the dollars of sales? What do you do to measure right now whether your brand has a successful interaction in the marketplace? We need to kind of capture those measurements so you know what you can go improve on. Is it social engagement? Hey, I want X number of, I'm gonna put out 3 posts a week. I wanna make sure I'm gonna get, X percent shares, X percent engagement. Those are good measurements when you're pushing on social to know, hey, I'm getting the right engagement. The content I'm putting out is meaningful to my customer. The platform I'm putting it out on is meaningful to my customer. Is your ideal customer, are they on Twitter? Are they on Reddit? Are they on Instagram? You don't necessarily need to be on all those channels. You don't need to always do more. You just need to be in the right spot. So when you're in the right spot, then the time you're spending on that channel really resonates with your customer. We never really spent any time on Twitter. Our customer wasn't on Twitter. But our customer was on Instagram, so we spent a ton of time on Instagram. So we knew we had to find the customer where they were. If I spent all the time and money in the world on Twitter, it wouldn't have mattered. So understanding where they are, that's how you make sure you get return on time. Because we're not making any more of it, right? So product differentiation. And for retailers, this is product assortment just as well as manufacturers, it's the product you build. So how do you make sure that the product you're building and the product that you're purchasing to put in your stores is aligned well with your customer? You're deep and you're gonna have, hey, I'm gonna have every single possible end table that you could ever want in my furniture store? Or are you gonna make sure you have 3 end tables and you're gonna have some coffee tables, you're gonna have the bedroom sets, you're gonna have a breadth instead of depth. But understanding that strategy of what your customer is looking for makes a really big difference on how you can, again, be that customer choice, resonate with the customer. For the brands that make their own products, are you deciding, hey, this is the market niche I fill, and I'm gonna spend all my time in this one area, that's my value proposition. So when I go back to the Jones family, right? So the Jones family, their purchasing motivations when they're moving into the new house, they have rooms to fill. Well, you know, a back to school promotion is probably not going to resonate with them. They're not, that timeliness function isn't what the Jones family is looking for. They're not looking for that entertainment set for the, you know, Super Bowl game. That's gonna, because they're not entertainment focused. They're really focused on, you know, their family. So understanding the separation between not every customer is the same. There's motivations that are unique. So the product development process, look at this, and this is pretty typical. I've been with a lot of big companies and done a lot of different projects. The customer needs assessment was like step number 2, right? You know what's crazy about that? 80% of new products fail. Oh my God, what a waste. I mean, to me, when I saw that number, that's like staggering. The reason that 80% of new products fail is that customer was like step number 2. And the reason this is important from an omnichannel, and you guys are probably, I can't even learn about marketing, I don't even know why you're talking about this, is that the product is still, that's the monetary exchange, it's still essential to deliver on that, what that customer needs are, so you're really resonating. And you can avoid the failures of the products you buy to sort in your store, or the products you bring to market by staying laser focused on those customer needs. It goes back to similar, we talked a little bit about assortment and pricing. You know, value priced versus premium priced, it's a little bit of, again, when that customer's looking to you for something, or what are they looking for? What's that engagement? You know, everyone can be, we can have a very wide variety of price points. We just have to hold ourselves accountable to what that customer's looking for from us. So multi-channel, getting back to kind of the core marketing side of the conversation. There's no way you're not going to have multiple touch points with your customers. The customer's not going to just walk in the store and buy their stuff and go home. Every time they touch your product is another touch point between you and that customer. Every time they drive by your store, if you have a retail store, every time they drive by your store, they're remembering that experience. It's either a great experience or a bad experience or somewhere in the middle. But we know we're going to have multiple touch points. The question is, are we using those as an opportunity for value exchange every time? We're giving that customer a reason. Hey, when they drive by my store, they're going to see, hey, my store, we're doing a customer appreciation event next Tuesday at, you know, whatever, we're having bouncy houses, right? Because I serve families with kids. Is that the scenario? Because the Jones family is looking for other things to do on the weekends. What are you doing to make sure that you're creating positive energy on the different experiences, every opportunity you have? We have a big opportunity for influence. We just don't always seize that opportunity and actually create positive engagement. And I think it's really easy for, when we start talking about marketing, you know, everyone is so busy, you know, everyone's schedule is typically already over full. You know, it's not about one more thing. It's all about when you do the thing, take a step back and make sure the thing is really customer centric, that through line. So everything you do, you're being really, really thoughtful about how that engages with the customer. So now, like the core media stuff, are people familiar with paid, owned, earned, and experience as media types? So paid, it's fairly self-explanatory. All right, I'm going to go and I've got a budget for Facebook, Google shopping ads, whatever. I'm going to go spend this money, and that's my paid media. Typically, they're fairly finite budgets. You need hard return on investment, whether you're measuring ROAS or whatever your metrics are, cost per customer acquisition. Whether you're measuring that, you got your budget, right? What's often underlooked is that owned and earned. So earned is like, you know, for local stores doing their Chamber of Commerce event, right? Donating to the Rotary, doing something that gets you engaged with your community. That's a positive owned thing, right? So you can control, you're out there pushing to create that energy in the market. Earned media is like PR. right? So we're going out there and we're gonna do blogs and we're gonna create articles and we're gonna send to papers and try to get it written up. That's where someone else owns the media and you're getting placement. So owned, you creating it in like a direct event. Earned is when media is giving you credit for doing something special and talks about you. And the experience, that's when you're having, well, retail store, every retail touch point is a new experience. Pop-up kiosks or other engagement with your brand where you have experience-driven activities. And that starts really early with, in e-commerce. How many people is anyone here that is e-commerce only? So in e-commerce, it's pretty typical to talk about your funnel activities, right? So top of funnel awareness, typically social, broad brush, not very targeted, but wide reach, so you get high level engagement. Then you cookie that traffic, so when you retarget that traffic, that's your middle funnel. That's when you're trying to get them to act. Go back to my site, spend more time on my site, watch my video content. And then you get to convert, that's when you get to the bottom of the funnel, as they call it. And that's when you're more aggressively retargeting them. You're sending them messages on like checkout, so hey, you abandoned cart messages. That's when you're getting to try to get that customer to convert. So from a retail standpoint, once that customer's found you and you've gotten them into your store, now you need to convert them. There's different sort of amount of energy between paid, owned, and earned as it goes up, basically down the funnel or through the process. Engagement is like my favorite because, man, again, it's free. So like, how do you make sure you continue to add value to those customers once they purchase your product? Are you remarketing them? Are you giving them discounts to come back and rebuy? Are you put them on a 1-year pillow refresh program? So did you know your pillow expires every year? You should buy a new pillow from me. What are you doing to, hey, I'll give you 50% off because you just want it back in your store. So they're remembering you and they're talking about those good experiences. The lift is incredible. Now, these seem like fairly small numbers, but they're compounding. So imagine you can increase your revenue by 9.5% and spend less money doing it. And only 89%, like 11% of companies are doing this, right? Like people talk about it, but a cohesive strategy is hard. It's hard because you gotta stop doing what you've been doing, the way you've been doing it, and you gotta take a step back and make sure that everything you're doing is on that ideal customer, and it's a common thread, that the messaging is going to that same Jones family. When the Jones family clicks on an email, it takes them to a landing page, or it takes them to a part in your store that resonates with what they're looking for. So omnichannel is huge, huge opportunities. So putting it all together. So when you have branded stories and content, some of the stuff is really easy, some of the stuff is a little bit harder, and it really goes back to like, where's your zone of genius as an entrepreneur or as a business owner, as a manager? Use ChatGPT to create some blog articles, right? What does your customer want to learn from you? You know what? You don't need to post what it spits out, but boy, that'll get you off the white sheet of paper, and then you now in 30 minutes can have a pretty good article that goes to your customers. Doing that customer journey and the mapping, it really makes a difference. You know how that customer is going to continue to engage in your business. Our business, we also take a step forward and we come up with a patent strategy, so the partners we work with will actually help identify patent opportunities for their product, design to a patent, and then brand it so you've got a common element that goes all the way from branding through patenting to the marketing. So, I'd love to have some, answer any questions or have more of an open conversation if there's questions from the group here. But these are what I'd recommend. What do you do next, right? So we talked about identifying your ideal customer. Make sure you share it with your teams. Like even big companies like Overstock should, share it. Identify your underused channels. What are the things that are low-hanging fruit that you just haven't gotten around to it? And make a commitment. Hey, the next 30 days, I'm gonna promise myself, I'm gonna go work on this one thing I know my business needs, but I really haven't done it. That's the one new thing I'm gonna do in the next 30 days. And own channels because they're free. They just take your time. And that's just an exercise in prioritizing your time. there's a lot of good partners out there, whether it's your email service provider, whether it's like a Claudio, or there's a really constant contact, a bunch of great ones. Make sure that SMS is part of that. You know, it was something like 98% of SMS messages are read, and something like less than 8% of emails are read. So like, look, think over again, back to our own shopping habits. You get a message on your phone, it's freaking annoying because it's gonna still show that red dot. You gotta clear it, you're gonna look at it. Now, be easy with unsubscribe. So that's a pain point for your customers and they hate it. Okay, back off. Maybe it's not every day. It's once a week. But find that balance. So, questions? You have questions, sir?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask about your own experience, like with Chili Sleep.
Yeah.
And because that, you know, as a product is a quite high engagement, solves, you know, an interesting customer problem around temperature control. And I know you sell it online, but it'd be great to hear about your experience in selling it through third-party retailers, if you tried that, and what the challenges were in one channel versus another in terms of engaging with the customer and explaining the product, which is more higher engagement, more active.
Yeah, great question. So for those who aren't familiar with the Chili Pad, is a temperature control system that goes right on top of your bed that allows the customer to cool down the bed down to 55 degrees or heat it up to 115. We launched it in 2007. We were at the very first, we were the tents in 2007 with Angela, and spent 15 years growing that business. Unfortunately, our experience in the furniture and mattress business was technology doesn't sell very well in mattress stores in the US. There are some exceptions. We probably had 50 great dealers, but we spent a decade beating our head against the wall to try to put all of our energy into selling to brick and mortar. We sold Brookstone, we sold Relax the Back, we sold solution-oriented retailers. What we struggled with was a retailer, a general mattress store, where it didn't have an effective selling process. Their RSAs presented the product a couple times and failed, and then they couldn't separate our product from a cooling gel product that actually didn't cool, but they needed to say cool because that was the number one problem. So they just didn't effectively sell it. When we were struggling as a company, we were just kind of hand to mouth, kind of cash flow. We were selling stuff, doing about $2 million a year. And what we did the analysis that 60% of our gross margin was going to 60% of our overhead, all servicing all the mattress dealers, was servicing less than 30% of our gross margin. So like it was flipped, right? So our gross margin dollars that were funding the company weren't coming from our brick and mortar retailers. The margin was lower, the relatively low product turns. So we walked away from it. And it's scary as an entrepreneur because I didn't know D2C marketing, and so I had to learn it. But it was kind of a live and die, like you just had to learn it. You had to sort of learn the math, learn customer acquisition costs, learn what multiples I needed on spend to be able to make a profitable sale and scale it. So kind of a long answer to your question, but we struggled. Now there's people here like BedEd Marketing that are leading the industry on helping retailers train and communicate messaging in the stores, in their businesses. So solutions are coming, but we did struggle. Any other questions? Yeah.
Yeah. So our primary business is actually our customers. We put customers into the furniture business. Would we be able to, and basically we create leads, we create interest, and then we sell a turnkey package, either a mattress store or a furniture store. With this Omni approach, because we're struggling with not having enough leads, do you think this could work with what we do? And then the second follow-up question would be, with the network that we have in place, do you have some type of program where we can get our affiliates connected to this? I think it would really help our affiliates.
Sure, we can talk after in more detail, but the technology that's coming in this space is mind-blowing. So, who here is familiar with geofencing? Has anyone heard of geofencing? So geofencing, for those of you who don't know, is like, hey, I went to a ball game and they had Wi-Fi, I connected my device to Wi-Fi, they now know my IP address, now they can serve me ads when I leave the ballpark, right? There's new technology. If you guys may have seen the signs here, Esquire Advertising, awesome company. Their technology is geoframing. And what that does, they can actually, with the IP address of your phone, they know their technology, and I'm gonna butcher it, so ask them for the real details. The way my takeaway was, they can follow your patterns as a shopper, not Bob Smith, not Mrs. Jones, but this IP address, 123, this IP address goes to the furniture store once a week, they go to the gym, they go to this elementary school, they know the pattern that person is operating in, and they can serve up ads that are special to them. Unbelievable technology. So, in fact, they've geofenced every single furniture and mattress store in America. So, you now, furniture and mattress store, be like, you know what, I wanna work with them because I wanna make sure if they're going to my customer, my competitors, I wanna be able to serve them ads from my store. But yeah, there's some really cool technology. That's one example. There's a ton of other stuff. Email capture, it's a very inexpensive tool called, I think, Get Emails. They can actually tie an IP address, the person that's logged in from their own computer, they go to your website, and they actually can convert that IP address to an email. So you can get the customer's email to go email them. It's a little bit creepy. You're like, oh, I don't know if I like that. You know, so hey, you know, you have to do what's right for your customer. If your customer's getting creeped out by it, like, too much. But the technology's there, and and some of it's like scary invasive, like very uncomfortable. But understanding what tool sets are out there can help you to decide what's right for you and your customer. It's the right balance. Yeah, man.
Probably talked about this before, but what are your thoughts on the biggest failure for organizations that are attempting to go on? Where do you think they fail the most when they're trying to implement a comprehensive omnichannel?
I think they try to do too much. I think it's a, you know, my perspective of omnichannel is it's a story of incrementality. So when you just try to like, I'm gonna scrap everything I'm doing, I'm gonna do it all over again and do it all omnichannel, everything's going for the Jones family, right? Yeah, I mean, practically speaking, that sounds awesome. It is not doable. It's not scalable. It's too much new. So I think the people that struggle, they need to pick up one win a quarter, one win a month. Promise yourself and commit to the incrementality that will allow that win in the long run. And don't feel like you need to throw everything out and restart it just to try to get everything perfect. There's no such thing as perfection, right? E-commerce is a story of 5% wins, 7% wins. When our business, the Chili Pad business, went online, we grew 20x in 5 years. Because we decided to own that customer story. We got real clear on who was gonna buy our product. And it wasn't the average hot sleeper. We just thought it was, and it wasn't, because they weren't really motivated to open their wallet. They were hot, but they were just gonna continue to be hot and miserable. It didn't matter how much money we spent trying to convert them, we weren't gonna get them. We needed to find the person that was looking for better sleep. So someone that was aspiring for better sleep that slept hot. Oh my gosh. Now everything was like twice as efficient. And we got that business up to 5x ROAS. So we'd spend $1 and we'd get $5 in revenue. Now, amazing, right? But it was only because we found who wasn't our customer. It wasn't a hot sleeper. It didn't work. It's too many. Yeah. Yeah.
I had a question, just following up on what you just said, about, who is the person who's not just a hot sleeper, but the person who, wants better sleep, and also coincides with that hot sleeping, problem. How do you integrate with other, data sets, like people who, for example, may go to the gym, they may care more about the quality of their sleep, or people who travel a lot. What are you seeing in terms of other data sets that are out there, and how to integrate that into your internal first-party data?
So, great question. I would say, rather than try to really do it all on your own, I would use the Facebook algorithm, assuming you're on Meta, Facebook and Instagram. their lookalike audiences and how they match is amazing. So the other people that are just starting in e-commerce, some of the hacks you have to work through. Ad sets, they optimize on what's working, right? So they're conversions. But one of the hacks on how to get some conversions before you have a lot of revenue is maybe you change the definition of a conversion. Instead of it being a sale, you start by saying, look, my definition of a conversion, what I want it to optimize for, is going to the second page, going from the home page to a product page. Let's do more of that. Okay, when you get more of that, now I want to go from a home page to a product page to the checkout, right? Because I'm still generating, you know, $100 or $1,000 a month my sale. It's not on my cart. It's not enough to optimize. So now we actually have enough conversions of dollars. Now you can get to the sweet spot of, I really only care about revenue. It just took me a little while to get here. Your question was about how do you get the common thread, the nuance, and even sometimes between you and a competitor. What Facebook or Meta does on their lookalike audience is amazing. So number one, you can look at all of your demographic data and what's different about your the shopper data that you have maybe from a Shopify site, and then you look at who's Meta retargeting and compare that. They're going to give you behavior traits that will be surprising. And then you'll over-index on some things. And I can't remember the model, but if you look like the personality modeling, there's some personality modeling research or methodology out there, and you can say, are they extroverts? Are they adventure seekers? Like, who is that audience? And you can look, you can do an enriched data exercise and see what that persona is. You'll find some surprising parts of that. That can give you new threads and new audiences to target that you wouldn't have thought to target. We found like the chili pads sold really well in biohackers. Pretty small audience, but you know, they're really vocal and they're early adopters. So that was really helpful for us. That's what got us made Reddit. It was a really good platform for us to acquire new customers. Like, I don't spend any time on Reddit. I don't know how many people do here, but man, that is a very tight audience. People that are on Reddit, they are fiercely loyal to Reddit, right? So like there's an audience there, and sometimes we can confuse like what we do online, what we do to grow our business is like what's really comfortable, like, oh, well, I'm gonna kind of market in the places I spend my time, you know? But that doesn't necessarily work. Yeah.
I just have a comment on the chili pad.
Yeah.
You know you're in Tools of Titans.
Yes, Tim Ferriss.
That's why I bought one
Oh,
for my ex-boyfriend,
awesome.
because there's so many,
Thank you.
so many Titans.
Yes, that was a big impact for our business
That's
for sure.
earned,
Earned media, 100%. And you know what that was? That's because we gifted a lot of product. I probably gifted 200 sleep systems. You know, Barack Obama slept on. We interacted. It was the same guy that connects us with Tim Ferriss. I don't know if you guys know Kelly Starrett. He's written some stretching and some supple leopard books, big in the biohacking space. Long story short, hyper-connected person. And like, he would just reach out randomly and be like, the VA in the White House needs a sample. And we're like, okay, how many? And when do I ship it? And we would just ship product. And the story we got back from the White House was actually, Obama put it on his bed, and then Michelle put her toes over to his side, and then went and took Joe Biden's. And then we had to send another one. Like, okay, that's how that works out. So, but he connected us with so many people. He connected us with Tim Ferriss. He connected us with Rick Rubin. He connected us with Brian McKenzie. You know, like people like Tony Robbins, stuff like that. We struggled, honestly, as a company, not finding the balance of like, who do we talk about, who do we not talk about? Because like, they're customers. If they bought it, like, it's kind of private, right? If they posted about it, now it's public, right? I can talk about it. But that's something we struggled with, of finding that balance of like, how much was self-promotion and how much was just being grateful that, you know, influential people buy it. Yeah.
So our business, we are a furniture store first in an area that is higher end furniture in an area where the demographic, they're like a couple cities away.
Okay.
So we also have like books and gifts and smaller things for the people in the neighborhood. My question is we do a lot of Instagram, how do we reach people in the cities with a higher demographic to come in and buy the $4,000 sofa? versus selling a $20 candle.
That might be one where, you know, my instincts would say, talk to some customers that you successfully got to come, that you've become sort of really friendly with, to tell their story. Why did it make it worth them? Because like, we can guess, but man, there's a lot of maybes in there. I would say, what was your motivation? Why did you come? Thank you so much for your business. What encouraged you to come? I know it was a little bit of an effort. And then get a real specific on what their motivations were. Where else did you consider shopping? Oh, because we had this unique brand? Or is it because you knew you'd have enough space? What is it that made their shopping experience delightful with your store? And then, man, lean into that. Go find 100 people just like them. And don't worry about trying to get everyone.
Yeah.
Go try to find 100 people just like them. And then you know, where does that person go? Is it who's that demographic? And then where do they live on social media? And where are they consuming content? And just get laser focused on finding people just like them. And consider that as an engagement. Hey, if you tell me your story about why you got to our store today, we'll give you a $20 gift card, or whatever. Maybe not a great answer, but that's how I get to the answer.
I mean, I guess I wanna know, how do we get the CB2 and the West Elm data and funnel it to them?
That's a great question. There's some techniques, but they tend to need some velocity to get really good data. That's the problem with data, is the data gets better the more of it there is.
Yeah.
And so without a bigger data set, you could get some information that's not terribly helpful. I'll have to think about that one. That's a good question. Good challenge. Good challenge.
Yes.
All right. Well, I know we kind of went all over the place. Hope you guys found it helpful or additive. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. If you want any information on these slides, if you want a customer journey map, send me a message. That goes to my LinkedIn profile. And happy to send you what we can.
Thank you. Thank you.
Specialty Sleep Association, you can come and visit us and see 1565. We'd love to see all of your faces.
Thank you.
We have lots to show you too. 26 different companies in one room.
Okay, we're having a networking for our investors. When did you buy a license?
I'll send you a link.
New accounting market. We finally just went public, so like 10 years. We have a different name. Thank you. Yeah. All the people that had new accounting market